This is Ann Fordori, and I'm on the faculty of the University of Nebraska at Kearney and the KSO board president. And I'm here this evening with three guests who are going to talk a little bit about the music on this evening's program. The first is Dr. Alison Gaines, who is the music director and conductor of the orchestra. And I'm going to ask her to tell us a little bit about some of the programming for this evening's concert.
So I'm really excited that we're all able to be back together. Last year we dealt with COVID by being in instrument families, so each concert had a string piece, a wind piece, a brass percussion piece. So this is our first time in a long time to get together. We're opening with Beethoven's overture to the play Egmont. I don't think anyone really knows the play, but they know the overture. That has survived. It's one of one of Beethoven's best overtures. Then we are doing a U.S. premiere of a piece by Polish composer Adam Wesolowski. And this piece is for euphonium solo and strings. And our own wonderful Dr. Benton is going to play. And he actually found this piece for me. I did not know how much repertoire there was for solo euphonium till I talked to him. But we've had some discussions with Mr. Wesolowski, and he's been really accommodating and tweaking a few things for us. Then we'll take this intermission. After that, we're going to do a piece that's an arrangement of a theme from the film The Mission with Robert De Niro and Jeremy Irons. And it's a tune that the film composer Ennio Morricone wrote. Most people remember him as the writer of the good, the bad, and the ugly theme. This is none of those things. This is just really beautiful, heartfelt melody, and it is for euphonium solo and strings also. Then our final piece is by the Danish composer Edvard Grieg, and it is 4 movements from music for his play, Peer Gynt by Henrik Ibsen. So we're doing the first suite, and that ends with something that we think will be very appropriate for the month of October.
A little Halloweenish, perhaps.
Yes.
Can you tell us anything about what prompted you to program these pieces this year? Having the whole force of the orchestra together again, or has the Beethoven or Peer Gynt been on your list of things you wanted to do?
They have. They definitely have. And having Dr. Benton play with us was also definitely on my list of things to do. I'm really excited that it's finally working. And part of picking 2 pieces with him with strings only was a little bit of combination of luck and fear that we may have to go back to just sections again. So this way his performances wouldn't have to be postponed if our COVID numbers went up because they're just string accompanied. But the strings are having a great time. The Wesolowski is such a fun piece.
Well, thank you for meeting with us today and for telling us a little bit about the programming. And if people are listening to this during intermission, they will have already heard the Beethoven and the Wesolowski piece and are looking forward to the second half of the concert. Thank you, Dr. Gaines.
Thank you.
Welcome back. I'm speaking now to Jeff Stelling, who has a really unique association with KSO, having been a board member and board president, and he is back on the board, we are happy to say. He also has played trombone with the orchestra and is now playing double bass with the orchestra, so a talented musician all around. So, Jeff, would you like to talk a little bit about your unique association with KSO over the years?
Sure, thank you. So I started with KSO when I was 15, so I played a while, played trombone for most of those years. Some years back, we filled the trombone section with students, and I had just happened to have built a double bass because I repair musical instruments, and the bowed instruments are something that I had not had much experience with, so I thought I should build one and play it a little bit so I can repair it more accurately. So I asked the director at the time, hey, would you mind if I, kind of learned and sat in the back a little bit? She said that'd be great. So I did it for a couple of years then, and same situation applies now. We have the section filled with students. So asked the director, Alison, if we could do that again, and she very nicely said yes. So
Well, it's great to be so talented and have so many choices of things to play. Can you tell us a little bit about what KSO means to this community, what you think KSO means to the Kearney community?
I think KSO is a cornerstone, I think, in this community for the arts in a lot of ways. It's a nice combination of UNK students, citizens of Kearney, and people from around central Nebraska. So it's pretty unique that we can put the kind of level of concerts together with all three of those kind of demographics together. And it's been long-standing. It's one of the longest arts organizations.
I think it is the oldest arts organization
Yeah,
in
I think you're
Kearney.
right as well. So it's nice that we can continue that tradition.
We're in our 116th year. Ron Crocker said there was a little time taken off during World War II, but other than that, we've been in performance every year. Some of our listeners may not know, too, you mentioned about instrument building and repairing, about the unique instrument you built with David Knabb. I mean, you really engineered it and figured out how to make it work, a toggle key saxophone that he could play after he had suffered a massive stroke. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So David and I were good friends at the time. He was also my brother's instructor. So after he had suffered the stroke, he just couldn't imagine not playing on one hand, but on the other hand, he couldn't imagine playing again with one hand. So we got together, and he was not really very big on the idea to begin with. And the more we talked about it, the more he did research on existing instruments, but he found them very limiting because you couldn't play all the notes. You couldn't play chromatically. You couldn't play all the way to the bottom of the instrument. You couldn't play to the top of the instrument. So I said, well, those should be easy to get around, if we work together. So after about 3 months of discussing it, we just decided to start building it. So he would tell me what he thought he wanted at the moment, and then I would make it happen. And then we'd go through, and he'd play it a little bit and decide if that was what he wanted or not. And if it was, then we refined it and left it. And if not, then he would just tell me his concerns and his new needs that he now discovered, and I would rebuild it. And we just went from there. So it was really a process of about 18 months in building and testing before we came up with the basic design that he's playing on today.
And you made a prototype first, did you not?
Yes, I bought an old Bundy at a garage sale, and we started on that one. And that one is actually being rented out through the One-Handed Woodwinds program that he manages. So it's nice that the very first one can still be used for a lot of people that either have strokes or injuries due to accidents in some way.
And you've had the opportunity to present this all over the world, and including the Kennedy Center. How was that experience?
That was phenomenal. We hadn't been to Washington yet. Our family hadn't, so I took my family, and David had his family there, and it was just fabulous. And the people at the Kennedy Center were just very, very nice. It's the very special arts organization that's there. Just being able to be part of a performance and a presentation in the Kennedy Center was a highlight of my life. So
that's great.
Very thankful for that.
Well, we look forward to hearing you on the second half of the concert then tonight. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Ann.
Thanks, Jeff. Good evening. I'm back again, and this time I'm speaking to Dr. Sharon Campbell, who is the chair of the Department of Music, Theater, and Dance. She also is a mezzo-soprano and has performed with KSO. I'll ask her about that in a bit. And she's in sort of a unique position as department chair to be a member of the board. So she has a great point of view from having been involved in other boards and then involved in our boards, and also having been a performer with the orchestra. So thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about the two very different experiences you've had, just because the repertoire was so different of performing with KSO?
Oh, yes. So last October, it would have been 2 Octobers ago, I sang a Verdi aria, Stride la Vampa from Il Trovatore. And, this is a piece that's written for full orchestra. Of course, they're supposed to be underground during the opera. But it really lends itself in Verdi's experience of orchestration to a really big and grand performance. And the range really suited me for showing off both low notes and high notes. It was a great chance to just feel like a thrilling and fiery person doing my thing and singing loud, which I like to do. And then later that season, I sang in our Bach selections. UNK choirs joined the orchestra in singing excerpts from Bach's Christmas Oratorio. And I had the chance of doing this delightful, beautiful, elegant solo from that oratorio. And that's its own challenge, I think, for a mezzo voice, is to sing in this medium range and need to carry over an orchestra. And that's where one really gets grateful. One's always grateful for fine direction like we get from Dr. Alison Gaines. But when we need the orchestra to have good balance with the singer, that's where you really need somebody at the helm who can hear that and attend to it. So they were each really gratifying and enjoyable experiences in their own very different ways.
And very different from performing with a collaborative pianist in a recital setting, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. The sense of a piano is essentially a percussion instrument. So how you feel the beat when you sing with a piano is very different from how you feel the beat with strings bowing and the onsets of wind instruments. So a good pianist playing with one can really feel like this just safety net and someone guiding you and holding your hand through a recital, and of course collaborating and creating imaginative experiences. With an orchestra, there might be less spontaneity because there's so many people involved, but it really feels like flying off the trapeze in one's sense of what's happening rhythmically. And again, that creates a really wonderful opportunity to trust the conductor and to trust your training.
And if you were going to say there was something else on your list that you wanted to perform with orchestra, what might that be?
Oh.
For listening conductors.
Right. I've always adored Elgar's Sea Pictures. So that would be a bucket list piece for me. So
Those are great pictures. Yeah, those are great pictures. Well, and I'm going to put in a shameless plug here. We're doing our opera scenes this fall on the 6th and 7th of November, and Dr. Campbell has graciously joined us for a wonderful scene from contemporary opera by Ricky Ian Gordon called The Grapes of Wrath, based on the same story. So I've gotten to collaborate with her on several occasions, including an award-winning production of Captain Lovelock, which placed second in its division at the National Opera Association competition. So we were grateful to have her talent join us for that.
I'm a lucky lady. I get to educate students in this really meaningful way, bringing music to central Nebraska through the work that we do. And I also get to get my singing on through the support of wonderful colleagues like yourself.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being with us today, and we'll look forward to the second half of the concert.